The idea of taking this British Indian girl and putting her in the world of football as a way to look at sort of dreams and defying expectations and doing exactly what you want to do.
I think Gurinder and Paul contributed mostly in that when I originally wrote the script, it wasn't a romantic comedy. It actually had quite a sad ending.
Her father dies and she has to come home and give up her dream, and it all ends very sadly and tragically. So I was like, okay, well, I'm glad you got that out of your system, but now let's move on. What about something else?
And so it ended up being a romantic comedy. It's got humour. It has a really happy ending. So I think that really changed from the original draft.
I know it took 2 weeks to write the first draft, which I was amazed at. But I used to get Guljeet to come to my house every day and sit next to me on my computer. And she would arrive at 10 and she wasn't allowed to leave till 6, and she actually said she was going to die, and I had to get her some Cadbury's mini rolls or something to keep her going all day.
The thing I think I'm most proud about is that Jess in the final version is still recognisable as the girl I wrote about in the very first version. She's just a bit luckier, that's all.
Central to the new script was the relationship between Jess and her friend Jules. What they had in common was the struggle to overcome the disapproval of parents and culture to achieve their footballing dreams. And helping the medicine go down was a classic rom-com love triangle, the object of both girls' affection being provided by their coach, Joe. 2 girls, 1 guy, and some heartache. Once again, Gurinder Chadha was cannily putting together the ingredients to create a classic coming-of-age movie.
The three of us, we felt great about it, and we thought, this is great, this is something that so many people will be able to relate to. It's fun, it's got a strong point of view. You follow this girl, emotionally you're caught up in it. The timing's great, the whole nation is football mad, it's perfect, and we couldn't get it financed.
It didn't help either that David Beckham was sent off in the second round of the World Cup, and it seemed Bend It Like Gigs might have been a better bet after all. But Beckham's career bounced back, and so did the film's prospects, after a motley crew of British investors provided the film's modest £3.5 million budget. This lack of money left no room for star casting, so Gurinder Chadha relied on instinct.
To me, the movie succeeds and fails on the script and on the casting, So I am extremely hands-on in the casting, and I had seen Parminder in a small theatre production at the Oval in South London many years previously, before I'd even started working on Beckham. And I'd really liked her as an actress. I thought she was really good, really understated, had a fantastic face. And so I'd been watching her as an actress. And so when we started writing Beckham, in the back of my mind, I had this young actress in mind.
From fringe theatre, Parminder Nagra followed a career route familiar to British actresses, appearing in both Casualty and Holby City.
Not bad. I like the doctor theme. Come on then, give us the full examination. My temperature's rising as we speak.
Parminder managed to get away from the NHS performing in the TV sketch show Goodness Gracious Me, before Gurinder Chadha offered her a big opportunity. Would she take it?
At the time, I just, in my head, I didn't say no straight away. In my head, I was thinking, why the hell would you want to do a film about football? I just didn't get it. And then she said, have you ever played football before? And I went, well, I kind of did in a play that I did like 2 years. No, I hadn't ever, And then nothing kind of happened for quite a while. And then almost like a year later, this script suddenly landed on the doorstep, and it was Bend It Like Beckham.
After reading the script, Parminder knew that the part of Jess could be her breakthrough role. But there was an unexpected complication: the legacy of a childhood accident that couldn't be ignored.
She came in and she took her jeans down, and I saw this huge scar all the way down her leg, and I thought, well, that's definitely going to show, and makeup's not going to cover it. And so I asked her what happened, and she told me what happened. And I thought, okay, well, let's make this work. We really want to cast you. Let's make this work. So we then took that story of how she got her scar, put it in the script, and it turned into a lovely little scene.
I was 8. My mum was working overtime at Heathrow, and I was trying to cook beans on toast. When I jumped up to the grill to get the toast, my trousers caught light, so my sister put me in the bath, poured cold water over me and pulled them off. but half my skin came off too.
Sorry?
I know. Put me off beans on toast for life.
Parminder brought a vulnerability to the role that was really touching. You can see the conflict in her face when she's torn between her family and playing football and following her dreams.
Hello.
Hi.
I thought I'd find you out here playing.
This is Tony. Tony, this is Jules from the team.
Hi.
All right. Jess is well made up with your team.
Yeah, we've got high hopes for her, especially me.
Our mum doesn't want me to play anymore.
That's bollocks. My mum's never wanted me to play. You just can't take no for an answer.
Keira Knightley wouldn't take no for an answer either. Coming from a showbiz family, she demanded her own agent at the age of 3. Age 6, she got one. A year later, she made her TV debut in Royal Celebration.
I wish you could come and see what Angela's been working on. We see so few fathers here.
Yeah, well, I'd love to, but as I said...
You'd like that, wouldn't you, Angela?
Oh, yes.
She's one of our stars. She really is.
Hollywood thought so too, and Keira Knightley made her debut as Sabi, the Queen's handmaiden in Star Wars The Phantom Menace. In 2001, she played Robin Hood's teenage daughter in Princess of Thieves for Disney, before rejoining the Brit Brat Pack in Nick Ham's thriller The Hole.
The second she walked in, you just knew she was very special. And she, a lot of times when you cast someone, it's not even so much on their reading of something. A lot of times it's just how, personality-wise, you'll see something and you see something in them, or you have a conversation about something else, and you just know that that person's right.
The key role of Joe the coach went to another up-and-coming young player. Jonathan Rhys-Meyers took the lead in The Disappearance of Finbar before letting it all hang out as a 70s glam rock star in Velvet Goldmine. The bad boy behaviour continued in 2000 when Myers could be seen as the sinister Steerpike in the BBC version of Mervyn Peake's Gormenghast.
Madam, I have seen such things.
This is private.
Forgive me, madam, but your book that I couldn't help but glance at. The adventures in there are nothing to what has happened to me.
Gurinder and I both liked the idea of casting Jonathan as a boy next door because he'd never really played that. He'd always been a kind of edgy, outsider character, and he'd done great work, but we always just thought, this boy is so sweet, he's such a nice guy, and he has a quality which hasn't really come across in his films before.
In the original draft, Jess's coach and mentor is actually an old Scottish man, and it was based on Alex Ferguson, and we ended up with this young, handsome Irishman. So, I think he worked really well. He's so charming and handsome, you could see why Jess would fall for him.
Free from the burden of impersonating Sir Alex, Myers had more time to work with the off-screen football coach, Simon Clifford. Sports films usually fall down on the actual sport, and Bend It Like Beckham would be judged on the action sequences. Clifford's job was to take the young actresses and turn them into believable footballers.
One of my proudest things as a football coach was actually Keira and Mindy, and to do what we did in that length of time. But it was a collaborative effort. And actually, on the film, you didn't see some of the things that they actually could do. But I was their biggest fan and open-mouthed at the end. But it was down to them and their hard work.
Keira was learning to headbutt the ball quite a lot, and I was learning how to bend the ball. That was our two specific things that we had to learn how to do. And he just made it a lot of fun.
Butting and bending it like Beckham was nice, but it came at a cost.
Poor Keira ended up with 2 bruised eyes, I think, like the second morning she got up. I felt so bad for her, because she'd literally been headbutting this, heavy, FA balls. I mean, they're so hard, and she just woke up like concussed because of this damn football.
We were doing 8 hours a day, and those girls, it's why I love them for life. They weren't paid for any of that. Their work ethic was tremendous, and I actually quote it with some footballers, professional footballers that I work with, who don't do 8 hours work in a week, and I talk about those girls. But not only did they do that, I then give them an email programme which was on a night, and they had to do homework. And Keira said that her dad was complaining and wanted to see me because she tore up a garden and all the rest of it. And I said, tell him to bugger off. I said, wait till he sees you in the film.
Whoops.
Oh, will you both pack it in? Look at the state of my fuchsias. Alan, when are you going to realise you have a daughter with breasts, not a son?
Paula, please.
No boy's going to want to go out with a girl who's got bigger muscles than him.
And no classically trained actress known for her sensitive suffering would want to play a nouveau riche lingerie shop owner with a football-mad daughter, surely. But Juliet Stevenson did. After featuring in costume dramas like Granada's The Malins, she broke through in 1991 with the lead role in Anthony Minghela's Truly, Madly, Deeply. And in The Search for John Gissing, Stevenson appeared alongside Frank Harper, her on-screen husband, in Bend It Like Beckham.
Juliet Stevenson is an actress that we've loved for a long, long time. And, you know, she's done some amazing work on stage and in film. And Gurinder thought it would be really fun to see her in a more comic light. And to play this character who was, you know, a little bit out of touch with her daughter and trying too hard. And Juliet Stevenson just does a fantastic job.
I was surprised, you know, because actually I'd done tons of comedy at drama school. I was always, you know, shoving on padding and putting on stupid wigs and moustaches and, you know, and playing the fool, actually, a lot of the time at RADA. But I'd by then become very established as a sort of serious classical actress, you know, and I'd been very keen to get out of that box. But nobody had really given me much of a chance to do it. So I'll never to this day know why Gurinder asked me to do it, actually.
And the strangest thing with me was actually having Juliet Stevenson as my wife, you know, because if someone had said to me 10 years before, you know, you're going to play Juliet Stevenson's husband, I would have went, you're fucking mad, you know, she's a Shakespearean actress, what's all that about?
A lot of Juliet Stevenson's dialogue was based on what friends' mothers used to say to me, like, you know, oh, it's your Indian friend from school, she's come to see you, and things like that. And so it was all there, buried deep, and it all just kept flowing out.
You're a lucky girl, aren't you? Because I expect your parents are fixing you up with a handsome young doctor soon, are they? Pretty girl like you.
Mum, stop embarrassing yourself.
You don't mind, do you, Jess, love? Of course not. Now, are you a friend from school or work?
She's a footballer.
To play the role of Jasminder's mother, another unlikely actress was chosen. The youthful Shaheen Khan had cut her teeth in television, appearing in Love Match in 1986. And even though she'd worked with Gurinder Chadha before in the groundbreaking movie Baji on the Beach, this time the director demanded a radical lifestyle change.
I remember it was bank holiday weekend and I got a phone call from Gurinder and she said, this was before I knew I'd had the part, and she said, I think you should sit down. And I thought, oh no, she's going to say I didn't make it. So I was all ready for a real letdown. And she said, you've got it. And I just went, oh, great. I was just so excited. And she said, but you've got to eat a lot, drink a lot, and don't sleep at night, because you've just got to look rough, big, and fat. So I was like, excellent.
We turned that poor woman into a monster, you know. I mean, when I first introduced her to people, no one could believe that was the mother, because she's such a pretty, you know, pretty woman, you know, and gorgeous and sort of, you know, very young looking, you know. And then to turn her into that kind of draconian Indian mother was like horrific.
What family will want a daughter-in-law who can run around kicking football all day but can't make round chapatis? Now exams are over, I want you to learn full Punjabi dinner, meat and vegetarian.
What was great was when the film finally came out, of course, you know, all the young women, that was my mum. That was my mum. No, that was my mum. I was like, no, that was my mum.
That's it. No more football.
Just your mother is right. It's not nice. You must start behaving like a proper woman. Okay?
In contrast to Jasminder's demanding mother, the role of Mr. Bamra would require quiet understatement. Another surprise choice from Chadha then when she chose Bollywood legend Anupam Kher, a household name in his native India and a veteran of over 200 movies. Kher made his name in Saransh in 1984.
Anupam is very much part of the Indian film industry. You know, he's made fantastic art house films, as they're called out there, as well as very popular Bollywood films.
He has such gravitas as an actor, but it's about finding a new kind of tone and acting style for him. So with Anupam, you know, Gurinder would joke that the first take would always be the Bollywood take, and he would always be a little bit bigger and a little bit more dramatic, and Gurinder would just constantly say, okay, now I want you to not move your hands, and I want you to be still, and everything was always about less, less, less.
For me, it was a difficult job because I'm used to saying my lines in a certain manner. But I think when I decided that, and with the help of Gurinder, it became very exciting to not say anything. And I think that is the strength of father's role in Bend It Like Beckham. I was the best fast bowler in our school. Our team even won the East African Cup. But when I came to this country, nothing. I was not allowed to play in any of the teams. And these bloody Goras in their clubhouses made fun of my turban and set me off packing.
I wanted the film to be a comedy, and I wanted the film to be very entertaining, but as usual, I still wanted to make my points, and one of the underlying stories, of course, throughout the film, is about race and racism and prejudice.
Look, Jess, I saw it. She fouled you. She tugged your shirt. You just overreacted, that's all.
It's not all. She called me a packy, but I guess you wouldn't understand what that feels like, would you?
And for me, that's what really makes it a good movie for me, because it's not just the comedy, it's not just the football, it's not just the girls doing it for themselves. There is a great emotional heart and truth to the film about the disappointments of one generation and how another generation can take those sort of feelings of failure and disappointment and rise with that and stand up and move on to a new level.
I think Bend It Like Beckham is definitely Gurinder's most autobiographical film, in the sense that we shot very much in the locations, in the neighborhoods where she grew up. There's a lot of her family in the film, and there's a lot of Gurinder in the character of Jess Bumrah. I mean, Gurinder wasn't a footballer, but in terms of always kind of wanting to step outside of what was expected of a young Indian girl, it was very much Gurinder's story about, she always had a very clear idea of what her dreams were and what she wanted to do, and it wasn't necessarily what was acceptable.
Been so depressed lately.
In the movie, Jules' parents had difficulties with their daughter's ambitions too.
She's in love with a girl. Well, she's in a terrible panic, Paula, about, Jules turning out to be a lesbian. That's a world she has not really dipped into and is not at all politically correct about.
Hello, Mrs. Paxton.
How could you be such a hypocrite? How could you be respectful here with your lot when I know you've been kissing my daughter in broad daylight?
Julia?
Get your lesbian feet out of my shoes! She's laid a whole lot of things onto her daughter which are not there. And she's read things into the situation which weren't real. And she's just allowed her panic and her control freakness to sort of run away with her. And that actually, her daughter is who she is, and she's a fantastic girl, and she must be allowed to do what she wants and needs to do.
Mother, just because I wear trackies and play sport does not make me a lesbian. Me and Jess were fighting because we both fancied our coach. Joe.
What man? Joe?
Yeah, as in male. Joe. Joe, our coach. Joe, man, Joe. Anyway, being a lesbian, it's not that big a deal.
Oh, no, sweetheart, of course it isn't. No. No, I mean, I've got nothing against it. I was cheering for Martina Navratilova as much as the next person.
But one of the moments that I really love in the film, and when I've seen it with an audience, is when Jasminder's friend, Tony, is trying to support her.
Look, Jess, you can't plan who you fall for. It just happens. I mean, look at Posh and Bex.
Well, Beckham's the best.
Yeah, I really like Beckham too.
Well, of course you do. No one can cross a ball or bend it like Beckham.
No, Jess. I really like Beckham.
What, you mean? You're Indian.
And it's a wonderful coming out scene. I mean, it's so funny as a coming out scene. And so many gay people have stopped me and told me that's one of their favourite coming out scenes. And I just think the way that we bring Beckham back in that way too, because not only is he a great footballer and he was a great icon, he was a huge gay icon, if we remember at that time, you know. So I thought that was very clever, the way we brought the gay issue into a film about, you know, Beckham as well.
I think one of my favourite moments is one of the scenes at the end where Jess's father realises his daughter is immensely talented and she has to be allowed to follow her dream. Anupam plays it so beautifully, it actually always makes me cry.
I don't want Jessie to suffer. I don't want her to make the same mistakes that her father made of accepting life, accepting situations. I want her to fight. And I want her to win. Because I've seen her playing, she's brilliant. I don't think anybody has the right of stopping her.
I think that their acceptance of the girl's perseverance, her brilliance, her wanting to sort of do and play football and yet not going against her parents made her parents accept her dreams and allowed her to go ahead and fulfill her dreams. I think the father somewhere saw himself in her, what he could not do in his life, at least. He let his daughter do that.
On the surface, the film is about football, but its heart and soul is about family. When director Gurinder Chadha needed hers for the centrepiece wedding scenes, they were there. Literally.
Because the film is low budget, you know, the film is full of lots of extras, and probably 3/4 of them are Gurinder's family, you know, so it was typical, you know, call together all your family, all your friends, and have them be a part of the whole party, and we'll film the whole thing.
And that was both a wonderful thing, but also a bit of a nightmare, you know, because, you know, to all intents and purposes, you know, I'm the director, you know, on the set, I'm the boss. But when these relatives are there, I'm not, you know, I'm the young daughter or I'm the niece or so I had all these old women sort of bossing me around, you know, and I'd be going, well, no, excuse me, you've got to do what I say. It's not the other way around. So we did have a little bit of that, you know, I had to whip them into shape. And there'd be scenes where I would say, I just want you to act natural. Just pretend you're at this engagement party and just Minda's going to come around with a tray and offer you drinks and offer you sweets and take them if you want, and if you don't, just say no and just be very natural. Jasminda came down the row of all the old women with the trays, and she stopped at one of my aunts and said, would you like something? And she said, oh no, I can't, I'm sorry, I've got diabetes, so I can't have anything with sugar in it, because if I do, then this starts happening to me. And so this whole sort of dialogue started about diabetes with my aunt, and poor old Parminder was like trying to act and trying to get on with the scene. She was supposed to just walk straight past, but this aunt had sort of commandeered her for this whole conversation. So, you know, they did come cheap, the relatives, but it did cost us in extra footage and lots of retakes.
Look sad, don't smile. Indian bride never smiles, you ruin the bloody video.
The whole wedding scene we shot at the Sikh temple in Shepherd's Bush, and it was the same Sikh temple where Gurinder and I got married. So it was this strange deja vu where we were filming, you know, the same scene where 5 years earlier we'd gotten married, and it was very much the same thing. You know, it was everybody arriving, and you know, our groom arrived on a horse. I was boring, I was in a car, but it was that same sense of excitement and everybody waiting. And I remember when we filmed it, looking up on the steps of the Gurdwara, that it was exactly like our wedding. It was a lot of the same faces, you know, because it was a lot of our family.
Other familiar faces in the movie are David and Victoria Beckham's. But don't be fooled, the Beckham's schedule meant body doubles had that privilege. They did, however, get an exclusive preview of the film.
I went up to Manchester with Paul and Gurjit. A few of us went up there and we had the print, you know, with us, fresh print. And we were in this cinema, and David turned up with Victoria, and he'd brought these young boys with him. And I said to Paul, I said, God, who are these young kids he's brought with him? And Paul kicked me and said, it's Gary and Phil Neville. I went, oh, God, okay, because they look so little, you know, on TV they look much bigger. And I said to Paul, I said, God, who are these young kids he's brought with him? And Paul kicked me and said, it's Gary and Phil Neville. I went, oh, God, okay, because they look so little, you know, on TV they look much bigger.
After the debacle of David Beckham's 1998 World Cup, few would have thought that the temperamental midfielder would resurrect his career and by 2002 would be captaining the national side. Just as nobody expected a low-budget movie about a Sikh girl's dreams and ambitions to find its way into the nation's heart. Funny old game, football.
To David Beckham's credit, by the time the film came out, he had become a massive star, and his popularity was much, much bigger, and what he represented was slightly different. But he always supported the project. You know, he never wanted a fee or never made any demands on it, and always supported it. And when we first showed the film to him, it was fantastic because he saw it and loved it and just said, "This is great. You know, you have my support." And he was all set to come to the premiere. And we were really excited it was all going to happen and it was going to be this great event.
And of course, the great thing was that, not for David Beckham, but certainly for publicity for the film, that he broke the metatarsal a week before the film came out, before the World Cup. So a week before the film comes out, you know, there's not only David Beckham's face everywhere on every newspaper, there's his foot.
And it kind of helped the film, because at that point there were all these headlines which said, "Oh, mend it like Beckham," or "break it like Beckham," and his foot was the cover of the Sun, and you know, it was this big thing where that term suddenly entered the language.
Caught up in a wave of World Cup euphoria, the public got behind the film in an unprecedented way. The romantic comedy's performance surprised everyone when it opened in 384 cinemas across the country.
We sat there and watched it, and I just remember at the end when it finished, I had the biggest grin on my mouth. I couldn't stop smiling, and I remember looking over to Kira, and she had the same stupid grin on her face. And I went, "Okay, we're going to go to the toilet now." So we went to the toilet, and we're in the toilet, and she went, "Oh my God." I went, "Yeah." I went, "I think it's good." And I said, I hope everybody else is going to be smiling like, okay, we think it's good.
I think when I was driving my kids to school and I saw it all over the buses, and I thought, my God, that film I made last year with the weird title, you know, that I thought would be a disaster, should definitely change the title, I always thought, wrongly. It's all over the buses, you know. I mean, I'm not often in films that are all over the buses.
If Juliet Stevenson found it strange, it became positively surreal for Parminder Nagra.
I almost feel like it was a dream because I forget that it happened. But I was awarded FIFA Football Personality of the Year. And I remember Figo and Zidane like looking back at me going, who the hell is this? Like getting this Football Personality of the Year. And then standing at me when there was a picture of us all standing together, I remember Zidane like stood on this side. I was like looking up at him and he's just smiling down at me thinking, "Yeah, you jammy little girl." It's like...
Made on a tiny budget with no established stars, Bend It Like Beckham played out of its skin and went on to gross over $77 million worldwide and helped promote its leading players to Premier League status and earnings. Jonathan Rhys-Meyers played a leading role in the remake of Vanity Fair, before being cast as Chris Wilton in Woody Allen's British excursion Matchpoint. Gurinder Chadha and husband Paul Berges didn't have to wait another 6 years to make Bride and Prejudice, working again with Anupam Kher, who starred with Shaheen Khan in The Mistress of Spices, which Berges directed and co-wrote with Chadha. Bend It Like Beckham's success was contagious, and a key Hollywood producer wasn't immune.
When the film came out in the States, Jerry Bruckheimer asked to see a print of it, you know, because I think his kids were going on about it, and they got the print to the house, and he saw Kira in it, fell in love with her, cast her in Pirates of the Caribbean immediately.
Bend It Like Beckham may have put Keira Knightley on the map, but after Pirates of the Caribbean, she was on Hollywood's A-list. She continued buckling her swash in 2004 as Guinevere in King Arthur, was nominated for an Oscar in 2005 for Pride and Prejudice, and put aside the bonnets for bullets in the same year as bounty hunter Domino. Knightley recently reprised her role as Elizabeth opposite Johnny Depp's Captain Jack Sparrow in the Pirates of the Caribbean sequels.
I was having lunch with my friend John Wells, the producer of ER, who was telling me that they were thinking of putting an Indian doctor in the series, and I think they were talking about putting a man in. We were having this conversation, and he said, "Is there an actor you would recommend?" And I said, "Well, have a look at Bend It Like Beckham. I mean, Parminder's fantastic. She'd be a great doctor. I think her parents would be very happy."
He'd asked me what I was up to and everything, and then about halfway through the meeting, he turned around to me, literally as casually as this, and went, "How do you fancy doing some ER?" And because I thought, you know, I was like in my head, I was like, you know, I think he just offered me a job. I better say yes very quickly before he changed his mind.
Inside 2 years, Parminder Nagra went from being football-crazy tomboy Jess to Dr. Neela Raskotra in the world's most famous accident and emergency unit, coming full circle from her Holby City days, and providing a rare example of a returning Asian character in American television. Before going back to LA, she worked again with Anupam Kher in the Anglo-Indian TV drama Second Generation. Parminder returned to the movies in 2004, playing Arida in Ella Enchanted. In 2007, she began her 4th year on the set of ER. Bend It Like Beckham's Mr. and Mrs. Barmra would have been very proud.
I think the film is about hopes and dreams, and it's ultimately about an underdog doing well, and whatever your dream is, you know, you should go for it, and you don't let anything hold you back.
You know, you could make a British film which wasn't cynical. You know, you could make a film which was about dreams and about hope and family and community, and not be cynical about it, and have it sort of touch a nerve and have the response to it in the way we did.
It's found a way of articulating the differences between two different generations, regardless of colour or race or whatever. And I think that's why it's such a universal film and why so many people relate to it around the world.